Hello and welcome to episode 21 of Crucible Bootcamp. As usual, I'm your host, Keen Koala, and today we're going to be looking at a new map. Unfortunately, I don't have this map. I have a heat map, but not a really good Orion map to draw all over, but it's Thieves in, and this is some gameplay that was sent to me by a friend of mine named Anklet, and he's playing a Stormcaller with the tryhardiest of loadouts, a hand cannon, and a shotgun. Specifically, I believe it's Fellwinter's Lie, so we're in for a real sweaty treat. Let's go ahead and get started. Please ignore the title of the video. Anklet is a quality shitposter. So he's using an Ufern, which is the Ias Luna archetype, but of the Omnom, or Omelon, as it is actually known, hand cannon. I personally really like the Omelon hand cannons. I always say that you load it with a juice box or a Capri Sun because of how the bullets look. The interesting thing to note about the Ufern, and this one in particular, is that it only has 5 shots. His has Luck in the Chamber, which makes it a 2-tap. If you get a Luck in the Chamber proc and on a headshot and then another headshot, it kills someone in 2 shots. And that likelihood of getting a Luck in the Chamber shot over 2 shots, so it's 20% on your first shot and then 25% on your second shot, you have a pretty good chance of getting 1 Luck in the Chamber shot over your first 2 shots. So on this particular hand cannon, you always want to be pacing your shots really well and aiming for the head because you want that 2-tap to happen really often. And another thing to note also is that because that your clip is so low, you have to be very careful about your shots. Every bullet matters because you really only have time for one engagement. You don't have time for multiple engagements. It's just like the last word. You really only have enough ammo for 1 engagement. The second engagement, you're going to have to supplement the remaining bullets in your magazine with either abilities, so your grenade or melee, or actually taking out your secondary. In the case of the last word, you're probably using a sniper, so you're going to have to take a really quick body shot. Thieves Den is a pretty difficult map to play in general. It's very, very close quarters. There's lots of radar trapping that can happen, and there's all these tunnels that you run through. But that makes it perfect for a shotgunner like Anklet. You can see right off the bat, he's just pushing into someone. So the big takeaway that I want you guys to learn on today's episode is confidence, and the importance of confidence when you're trying to win a Rumble match. We've seen before that I've talked about, hey, you need more confidence. You need to get in more engagements. The whole key about Rumble is time between engagements. We want to be as short as possible between the time that you kill someone to the time that you're fighting someone else. Obviously, that time is really determined on 2 things. 1, how capable are you of fighting when you're weak? And 2, how fast are you actually regenerating your health? So when playing Rumble, having high or max recovery is really good because it reduces the time it takes for you to get into another engagement at full health. And that's what we want to be doing. That's going to help us always engaging at full health is going to help us in every engagement, as opposed to giving the enemy the advantage where they only have to hit us twice, but we have to hit them 3 times because we're engaging at no shield or at 1 bar as opposed to the full 3 bars of health up here. So you see, he sees someone, he's just pushing at them. He's not really waiting around. Now, the issues that you have with pushing at people and not pulling them into you is you put yourself into shotgun range really often. So this particular engagement ends up in his favor, but against a more aware opponent, he would have died. So here's why. This point here, where he's jumping into the air to round this corner, he should have a shotgun out, not his primary. So he needs to be weapons ready on his 1-hit kill because he's going to be in the enemy 1-hit kill range. So he needs to be picking the proper weapon for the engagement, which he doesn't. However, Anklet knows that if you can hit confirm a grenade at this close distance, his melee is always going to finish off the target. Because as you can see, an arc bolt does 91 damage, and melee does 122 for a total of 213. No class in the game with max armor or with the ram can get past that threshold. So that's always going to kill someone. This is especially good if you're running Perpetual Charge on Stormcaller. What Perpetual Charge does is if you kill someone with your ability, you get the opposite ability's full charge back. So if you kill someone with a grenade, you get a melee. If you kill someone with a melee, you get a grenade. The cool thing about that is that you can game it in such a way that you can get back whatever you want. The Stormcaller, the power of the Stormcaller is the melee. It's not the grenade. Arc Bolt's been nerfed basically into the ground, so it's really just used for priming or finishing, right? So this is really subtle, but it's something that I think that if you're going to play a Stormcaller at a high level, and you are going to run Perpetual Charge, which there's an argument to be made for Perpetual Charge or Electrostatic Mine, which we can discuss later, but if you are going to run Perpetual Charge, you need to master this tiny movement that he does here, this little play. So he's going to confirm with the grenade right here, right? Now the way bolt grenades work is there's a tracking period where they acquire a target, and then a firing period where they actually do the damage. So there's a delay between when you throw the grenade when it actually does damage, as opposed to something like a lightning grenade, which does this damage instantaneously. Now, because there's a delay on the grenade and the way that Perpetual Charge works, if you melee as the grenade is flying, your melee will hit first. Melee is instantaneous. And then your grenade will finish its tracking and it will fire. So the grenade will actually be killing him, and there'll be basically no downtime between when your melee goes off and when your grenade goes off. So there's very little time for your opponent to react to this. So he melees first, and then the grenade tracks. If he was running Perpetual Charge, he'd instantly have his melee back, which is, again, the strongest piece of the Stormcaller neutral game. Neutral game being non-super. So when you don't have your super, that's considered your neutral game. So that was a really nice play that you should basically aim to copy. You see he's kind of cut off here by a lightning grenade, so he can't really push in. And then the guy he just killed ends up spawning behind him. He does a really nice thing and runs away. Like, he doesn't, as soon as he misses those first 3 shots, you know that he doesn't have enough bullets left in the chamber to finish off a target. So he's just going to back off into cover, which is good. He's going to reload his gun in cover, which is also good. And then he's going to turn and try to re-engage. He's kind of, that shot there, he's basically trying to prime his luck in the chamber. He's kind of game the mag, if you will. So by shooting just straight into the ground. If you hear luck in the chamber proc, you reload. If you don't hear it, then you keep it there, and you're even more likely to get a headshot in those first 2 bullets. Now he's gonna push right into this guy with his shotgun and get a really nice kill because his opponent really wasn't prepared for that. So let's kind of see how that plays out one more time. So he's backing up, he's disengaging here, which is good. And he's undercover. If you're below the skiff, really you're only vulnerable at this point, whereas to the left of him, someone that's potentially coming out through that special box in the mid-tunnel area can see you here, but it's a pretty difficult shot to make in general. So you're relatively safe here from any crossfire. This is completely safe for you to regen, do whatever you want. So he sees him on radar and instantly slides into it. He sees that there's someone behind him on radar as well, so he's just pulling back. He's going to pull him around this corner, and they're both going to close the gap for him. He's going to close the gap towards the guy pushing him, and the guy pushing him is going to continue to push, which makes it even easier for him to get within shotgun range. To be a proper shotgunner, especially against enemy shotgunners, it's the movement style is a lot like dancing. And you're trying to dance in and out of the one-hit range. A really good shotgunner will pull you into their one-hit range, but pull themselves out of your one-hit range. That's what's called defensive shotgunning, or baiting is a more common term. And so baiting is actually, so we'll try to draw you a picture here. Let me pull up my whiteboard. And I've done this example a few times now, but again, here is your range. You're here, and your enemy is here. And let's say in the middle of it, this is your one-hit range. So in fighting games, this is also known as footsies. So it's dancing in and out of where you can actually kill your opponent. Let's say you can slide this distance, right? So as your opponent closes in on you around this corner, you can see that if you close the same distance, you are now within one hit range of each other. This is a one hit range, just by closing the distance a little bit on each side. You have to remember that movement isn't one-sided unless one person isn't moving. And that creates a whole different set of problems. But now that you've both moved into one hit range, this is where the dance happens. So there's two things you can do in this position. You can either choose to slide or jump, and jumping can go one of two directions, forward or backwards. So if you slide, you're going to close the distance even more, which most likely will result in a trade against a good shotgunner, right? This is where you see two guys kind of move into each other and they both end up dead here in the middle. If you jump, the purpose of jumping towards someone is if you think they're going to slide. If someone slides below you and you jump above them, you can be pre-aiming down. When you slide into someone, most people pre-aim at the body or the chest. So you're pre-aiming here, and if their whole body is up here, you probably only hit their feet, which is not going to be enough pellets to kill them, right? But the person that jumps up is going to be pre-aiming downwards at you, and that's going to give you the opportunity to hit the entire body. So when you jump, if you anticipate your opponent to slide, it'll result in a kill for the jumper and a death for the slider. So this is one example of kind of baiting your opponent into doing something. So let's take that same example now, but now let's explain what happens when you jump backwards and why you would jump backwards. So we're in this situation, again, we're in one hit range. It's only going to take a slide. It's only going to take a slide to kill someone, right? You can slide in here and kill them. So the reason you jump back is to create that gap where they can no longer one-shot you. So if you're here in one hit range, and out here is outside one hit range, by jumping back and creating a gap here, when they slide in and change positions, they're going to be just outside of one hit range. But their momentum is going to continue to keep them going forward, right? A slide, you can't stop a slot mid-slide. So let's say you jump backwards and they fire, and you take half damage. If they don't follow up with a melee, especially as a Warlock or a Hunter, you have that instant burst of speed. You can burst back forward into your one hit range and kill them. So it basically looks like this. Person's here. You're here. So this is step one. Step two is you're now outside of one hit range here. And this person has moved this way, right? So this person is here now, within one hit range, well within one hit range, but you've backpedaled, so you're going back here. So you've jumped backwards. Their momentum is going to continue to have them move forward. So in 3, I'll keep that green line up. So in 3 now our opponent is slid. He's going to continue to slide. So he's here. But he's taking a shot. We're at half health in this situation. Now that we're in half health, his weapon isn't going to be ready for a shot, and we can push forward and kill him. Well within our one hit range, or potentially we can even stay here, and as a Stormcaller, it's 12 meters, which I can't show you now because I can't just load up a game and just melee someone. But in the future, I'll be able to just load up a game with my assistants, and I'll show you, hey, this is what max melee range looks like. So for a Stormcaller. So in this case, you can basically shoot back from this distance, and you know that it's going to do about half damage, but you also know that your melee can finish from this distance very easily. So as long as you stay outside of one hit distance, a good Stormcaller will never win or never lose a defensive shotgun battle, because your melee will always be longer than theirs. That makes Stormcallers very, very dangerous. But in this case, Anklet just moves into him. So now he moves past him, which is another option that you can have. If you have a high enough sensitivity like he does, he can just whip around. But again, this is another opportunity where we want to be backpedaling, not sliding into him. Because when we slide in, it results in a, well, basically this time it resulted in a kill because his opponent had already primed him. In his position, it was in his best interest to backpedal with a quick burst backwards and bait him in with his melee. And he was really close on the half distance with melee. So we'll see how close. So you see that his aim is a little to the right, and so he only results in hitting him with 2 pellets. And I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe Fellwinter shoots 11 pellets, or 12 pellets. Maybe it's 13. It's between 11 and 13. But you have to hit, basically, at least 9 pellets, because it does, as you can see, it does 24 damage to kill someone. If you only hit with 2 pellets, it's 48 damage. That plus 122 is only going to result in 170. So the enemy player is going to end up getting left absolute. It's really hard to see in the moment that, hey, I hit with 4 pellets, but you should know based on what their health looks like, how much damage you've actually done to them. It's about, I believe it's 80 damage, or about between 80 and 100 damage for shields to be down. So if you see their shields are down, you know that your melee is going to finish them off. In this case, Universal Remote fires very, very fast, so he actually had time to get 2 full shots off. In the time that Anklet only had 1 shot, because Fellwinter's is a very, very low rate of fire shotgun. I believe the lowest rate of fire shotgun. So you see he's sliding into these engagements as he peeks around the corner. That's really good, because if there's a sniper on the other end here, if you go walk through at head level, you're going to get instantly killed, especially from this particular angle. This is a very popular sniping spot, both inner tunnel and outer tunnel. We'll call this outer tunnel. And when you slide through from Seaside, which is where he just slid through, if you slide through Seaside tunnels into outer tunnel, you don't want to go at head level, because someone out here, the sniper out here is going to be head glitched. It's a head glitch from this distance because of the way this slope works. And 2, most snipers that snipe this particular lane know exactly where your head is. It's even easier on inner tunnel, because when you're on the other side of inner tunnel, only your head shows as you approach. And it's really easy to gauge head height in the tunnel itself, because your head never goes above the ceiling. So if you just aim close-ish to the ceiling, you're going to get a headshot almost every time if you're sniping inner tunnel. Now, in Rumble, it's a little harder to snipe on this particular map, because again, it's all close quarters, and you only really have time for 1 shot before someone gets into melee range. So he sees people on radar, and he's kind of sliding around. Again, he goes past. He needs to disengage here, but he ends up dying and slides in. So again, this is another really good opportunity for him to be defensively shotgunning and pulling him around that corner into him. He's incredibly weak, so this kind of confident play where it's gonna result in a trade, most likely, it's pretty ballsy. But this kind of play is just the kind of play that you have to make as a shotgunner in Rumble, especially if they're potentially primed from their last engagement. You're not going to get a better chance at just a free kill than here. So normally it's okay to trade in Rumble. If this were a 3v3 game, I would be a little bit more concerned with this kind of play, because it can always be cleaner. And deaths in 3v3 play are they have a lot more impact on the way the game can play out than in just Rumble. Again, keeping in mind, Rumble is about kill efficiency and time between engagements. So we want as little time between engagements as possible. So when you push someone off spawn, you have to be aware, especially when you're primed like that, how you're going to approach the situation. Most of the time, approaches head-on are going to result in death. It's either going to be a trade, or you're just going to straight up die because you're not utilizing cover very well. If you throw a priming grenade, the reason you throw a priming grenade is from behind cover. so that when you approach, it's dangerous for the opponent to stay there. You don't want to throw a grenade mid-engagement because that says that you're panicking and you're not going to have enough time to follow up with shots because you're going to be exposed when you throw the grenade. So here, he knows that someone is out on a door. So here it's safe to basically do a short hop to throw a grenade above this wall here. You don't have to completely engage, especially now that you're down a bullet. You have to be very careful. Instead, he pushes here and primes from outside cover. Priming grenades, you never want to really prime from outside cover, especially if the person can already see you. Again, you want to be putting shots on someone if you can see them. And then another mistake is just you're going to try to follow up, knowing that you don't have a melee now, because I believe it ate the charge when he went here. So now that your melee is down, you can't really follow up from the distance that you want to with your melee if you're trying to prime with your grenade here as a Stormcaller. So again, it's just going to result in a death most of the time you push head on. You can be it's a little more lenient as a Juggernaut Titan because you're going to create space, your own pseudo cover as you push that gap. So that's a perfect example of when Juggernaut is really good because that space there is in that medium distance, that close mid range, where the opponent isn't going to have enough time to both break your shield and kill you unless they get a super or they double tap you with a sniper really, really fast. And to be that accurate, that close, is just an impressive shot, period. That's nothing you could have done if they just make a really good shot. And that's something that you have to keep in mind as well. Like, I can say, hey, you should have done this better, but if your opponent just made a good play, then there's nothing I can really critique you about your opponent making a good play. Sometimes that's going to happen, and you should acknowledge that. When someone snipes me, I'll say, hey, good snipe, man. They can't hear me, but it's important to at least acknowledge when you've been beaten. So there, he's just trying to push, again, to get into engagements. Really nice shots here. He knows that someone is down the steps because this guy is engaging. So as soon as you kill him, you only have 2 shots left in your mag. So you don't have enough time to kill someone with at this distance with a 2-tap plus a melee because you're going to be in shotgun range. You have 1 shot left, just pull out your shotgun right away. He hesitates and pulls it out way too late, so he just gets killed. Off spawn again, we're going on Rumble to where we know the people are, or where we think they're going to be. So he's instantly pushing back to tunnels. Tunnels is a really good spot. Most people go to tunnels, either side. The other spot is around Skiff. So that maneuver there is something that a lot of Warlocks, if you're going to play Warlock, should get used to using. It's called helicoptering. So the advantage of the Warlock glide is it's very slow and it keeps you in the air for a very long time. And it's the same way, it's another way to radar bait someone. So right now we have 2 ways on the ground to bait someone, right? We have a jump, float into the air, or we have a standing up, so we show on radar, so they know where we are, and we have crouching, so we kind of blip in and out of radar so they don't necessarily know exactly where we are, unless we're just sitting there forever and they're not moving. Then you know exactly where someone is. But the third thing is to jump above a choke point in order to create cover for yourself. Normally, this location here is exposed from 2 angles, right? This C door here and inner tunnel. But by floating in the air, you're protected from both, temporarily. So that just punishes the guy from pushing into him, and he's running landfall, so he immediately just pops the super as soon as he gets it, which is really good. Now again, I knew this was going to happen, but I definitely had some foreshadowing when I said, hey, you need to slide through that because if snipers are there, they know where your head's going to be. And guess what? He knew where his head was going to be. So really good shot on Gonzalo Damonsta. Or Damonsta. I don't know. Gonzalo Damonsta. I don't know what these names are. But because he didn't slide, and we find out later that Anklet's actually running Ionic Blink, you gotta push these corners with a slide or with a blink. You have to disrupt that sniper path, because if you don't, what happens is you get domed and then you cry because you only got one kill with your roaming super. So for comedic effect, let's watch that again, because Anklet, you done messed up. He even had time. He saw him out there. You see him for at least a solid second. And right here, you see he already has the glint. You can blink at any time. But you just keep moving into him. Maybe that's a panic. I don't know. But you gotta blink. Now, when you use Ionic Blink, there's basically two ways you can use it. You can use it laterally, and that's just on the ground and you're moving in a straight line. Or you can use it diagonally. And the way you use it diagonally is you do your short hop, and then the direction your short hop is going, you hit blink and you blink in that direction. So if you short hop up and to the left, you blink up and to the left. If you short hop back into the left, you blink back into the left. So it makes your movement very erratic with blink. If you try to change your direction in midair and you blink in place. So try not to change your direction. Try to jump in the same direction you want to blink in. And just jumping and blinking it's just very jarring as someone that's trying to challenge. It's also why Stormcaller super is one of the best supers in the game, right next to Golden Gun. I would say the two are about are the top two. So again, we're pushing. We know where they're going to be, so we're priming with a grenade. Gets a nice kill there. Unfortunately, he doesn't get special. That right there, that's the 2-tap we're talking about. That's a 198. So the only thing that's going to survive that is Max Armor, Titan, or Ram. And that's also why when you fire your hand cannon, you always want to aim for the head if you have luck in the chamber. So you have 112 and then an 86. Again, pushing back through these traffic lanes. We know people are going to be coming to through tunnels, so we're constantly just patrolling tunnels. He needs that special to pick it up. Special when you're out of special and rumble, especially as a shotgunner, is a priority. You should know the timing of the first special box on rumble and be aggressively trying to pick it up. The first box is always the most important. Unfortunately, he doesn't get his melee off, but I like that challenge there. He pulled him into a space where his opponent can't see him until he's mid-jump. And he just doesn't quite get his melee off in time. So again, we're off spawn. We know where people are. We're just pushing to them. There's no waiting around. The only time you want to bait is when they're close enough to be baited. Is that the same guy? Oh, it is. I don't know if that guy leveled up and got a second super. Okay, he's 38 there. I feel like he leveled up and got a second super. Or maybe he just still had Buzz up. Nope, he leveled up. Okay, he's 39. That's just really unfortunate on Anklet's part that guy had just happened to level up right. Oh, he's 30. Yeah, it sounded like he leveled up around the corner. But that sucks that guy had another super from leveling up. Again, same thing, off spawn, pushing to targets. Reloading and pushing back into cover, very nice. Sliding around that corner. Again, if there was a if there was a sniper at the top of that slide would save our life. It's more likely that sniper would body us, unless they expected us to slide. So these little things, they really add up. Even though these situations aren't coming up because there's not a sniper there, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't practice good habits. You should always practice good habits, especially when no one is there. So that's what I'm talking about. That is a perfect example of the power of the Stormcaller melee, because we know that guy has a sniper, right? Or a shotgun. I guess a close range sniper. And we know that we're going to bait him right around this corner, and we're definitely both out of one hit range right here. Unless they're running Luck in the Chamber and they hit you with like all the pellets, you're going to be outside of one hit range here. And they both take the shot at the same time, right? But he gets the advantage of his melee is always going to be longer at this distance, so he just finishes him off. That's how you should be shotgunning as a Stormcaller when you have your melee up. You can be the hyper aggressive, but when you have your melee up, you want to be aiming for these defensive kills because they're very low risk compared to a normal shotgun kill. You see him kind of Warlock skate out of there. Unfortunately, he doesn't have any special left, so he can't really challenge that heavy very well. But this is just another issue with being in tunnels when you don't have a shotgun. Is that when you don't have a shotgun and you're in tunnels, you're very susceptible to any kind of close quarters engagement. So again, Anklet's just moving off spawn. Unfortunately, no one picked up heavy, so hooray, free sleeper simulant shots. As soon as you miss your first two shots with really any hand cannon and your opponent is moving at you, that's when you need to leave. That is the time that you are probably dead. I personally don't really like engaging at all if I miss my first shot, because your first shot is the most accurate shot with a hand cannon due to the way bloom works. So unless you let your reticle completely settle back to initial bloom, you're kind of screwed for the rest of your shots if you don't hit that first headshot, or even a first shot in general. So again, we're at a special, so now's the time when we want to try to keep our distance. Anklet does a good job here trying to engage at a distance, but unfortunately he gets two headshot, one body shot by that water star. But he had the right idea. Unfortunately, in this particular instance, you got to keep that slide or jump engagement up. So he has that jump up, right? Oh, this is after. So he's going to push to that corner. Little Warlock skates. So he ends it with a jump and he sees someone around the corner, but he's going to stay heads up, right? And this is an issue if this guy is a sniper, or if he, in this case, has better aim than him. He misses his first shot and tries to line up a second shot, but he already has damage on him. You need to be disengaging, and the Warlock jump is just really good because it's an instant burst of speed. So he can instantly burst to the left and be in cover instead of trying to continue to engage this guy, who obviously has his number. So you have to learn when the proper time to disengage is. Sliding through that, now that he's sliding through that, now that he got domed by that sniper earlier. That's a free push, seeing that guy had a sniper rifle. So that's a good push around. Unfortunately, that guy has universal, so even though you saw the sniper rifle, that could still be potentially dangerous if you knew that beforehand. But I like that push back around to continue to challenge, especially after he gets a Luck in the Chamber proc on the guy. Because he could potentially finish him off with a melee. That's going to be a 197. So he's got a super again. We should be looking to immediately push with our super, which unfortunately he pushes out into the open and gets domed by an answering cord, no less. But again, let's push with our super. Let's go to where we think people are and just use it. Now he's going to blink. Unfortunately, when you use Ionic Blink, you do not want to Ionic Blink aggressively. The reason you Ionic Blink is to keep yourself alive because of the huge range that Storm Trance has. I believe you can... And you can always see the range when you hold down the button. So you see this the little lightning orb that surrounds you, that's the range in which you can actually zap someone. So keep that in mind when you use it. So as soon as you see that pulsing, that's the range. That's why you don't want to blink into people, because the range is well with outside of one hit kill range. When you do blink, again, you need to jump and blink. You don't want to be blinking in a straight line because it's easier to track you. You want to make your tracking very erratic. Unfortunately, for you, it's probably erratic to keep track of it as well, but the more you use it, the more you get used to it. And that's a perfect example of why we don't blink into people. Because we blinked into melee range and just got completely bodied. So let's watch the whole super from life to death again. So again, we have our super. We're instantly going to push with it. That's good for Rumble. He has landfall, so it's like a mini Fist of Havoc. Again, don't blink into people. Just let that guy come to you. Again, don't blink into people. Blink around that corner, jump into the air, zap him from a distance. Super armor gives you 50% damage resistance, so something like a last word takes 8 shots to kill you. That's a long time. That's 2 full seconds of them hitting you with every single shot in a gun that's very susceptible to bloom. That's likely not going to happen. It also means that they need 6 shots and a melee. So it's a lot of damage that has to be put on you, and in that amount of time, you can easily kill them with your super. Some very wild shots that I'm really surprised hit, but hey, kill's a kill. A defensive grenade, which is good. We see a challenge, and again, we're gonna bait with our melee, or with our jump. Really nice. Normally, I would see a lot of players not jump there. They would just kind of round the corner and try to challenge straight up. But a jump there really sets them up for success. Because you can see that the Titan comes flying out because he knows exactly where that guy is pushing to. If he didn't jump there, he's going to get bodied by a shotgun, 100%. But instead, that guy looks like his ankles got broken. Just a little bit of crossfire there. You can see that Ronin guy really close to him. And we still don't have special. Because we haven't controlled special boxes, and this is something I haven't even touched on, I don't think in any of my videos, but controlling special boxes in Rumble is your #1 priority. Outside of the normal how you're going to win. Because 1, you're going to deny the enemy player's special. It's going to indirectly make you more powerful if you have ammo. And 2, especially if you're using a shotgun, it's going to increase your time efficiency between kills. So unfortunately, he's kind of pushing around these corners without weapons ready. Most of the time you push a corner, your weapon needs to be out or ready. You gotta anticipate what your enemy is going to do. So I'm going to highlight that kill just because it's on a standing still target, but it's the importance of pacing your shots with a hand cannon and not necessarily firing at max rate of fire. Especially at this kind of range. You are within damage drop-off range, which makes it within effective range. But if you take that extra beat, just that extra second for your reticle to completely settle, you're going to have a much cleaner follow-up shot. Instead, he uses the whole clip there to get 3 shots, having 2 shots bloom out because he's not waiting for his reticle to settle. If you're going to be good at using hand cannons, you have to wait for your reticle to settle at kills that are at that kind of range. So like all good videos, they ought to end in a little bit of drama. So of course the guy that he's been fighting for first with ends up popping a super right in front of him. But he took the shot. A lot of players in that situation would panic and run away. I'm really impressed that he had the presence of mind to just take the shot. And not only take the shot, but also remember to follow up melee. I don't know if that's muscle memory or if it's, you know, he just made a good play, but like it was intentional. But part of being confident is taking shots that are risky, that might miss, but taking it anyway, because the payout is a lot higher than if you didn't take it at all. So some takeaways from Anklet's play for him, some general all-purpose critiques, is that a few times he definitely got lazy on challenging sniper lanes. He slides a lot more than most people that I review, which is good. But just sliding isn't enough. It's not just the slide that's important, it's when you're sliding and why you're sliding or jumping. And mix it up. Don't always be sliding through into the same sniper lane, especially if you're playing something like Skirmish, where the team can adapt to your playstyle. If you're constantly sliding through the same lane, then the sniper no longer has to pre-aim at head level. He's going to start pre-aiming at body level, and his former body shot is now going to result in a headshot. So you want to mix it up. You want to think, not let your opponent get into a groove and figure out, okay, he's always going to slide here, I'm going to be pre-aimed. If you start jumping through, or you mix it up, 2 jumps and a slide, or 2 slides and a jump, or whatever you want to do, don't give your opponent a chance to figure out how you're playing the game. You want to figure out how they're playing the game and figure out how to stop them from playing the way they want to play. And mixing up your movement patterns will do that. The second thing, and probably the most important thing for a shotgunner to learn, is defensive shotgunning. He has a good foundation with helicoptering, which is the easiest thing to do. I guess the easiest step 2 to do in defensive shotgunning. The first step, obviously, is knowing how radar baits work on the ground, so standing up or crouching on the ground, and knowing what that looks like from your opponent's point of view. You know what it looks like from your point of view, but keep in mind that what you see is also what your opponent sees. So if you're standing up and you see someone on radar, you have to realize they can also see you in the same location. When you're crouched, it changes a little bit because your radar will blip. And so that's how you know when you're blipping to your opponent. And that can give you a chance to understand, if you see them standing up, how they're adjusting to your blip. If they're moving into you, that means your bait is most likely working. If they're moving away from you, that means you need to reposition in order to, because they're not taking the bait. So you need to approach the challenge a little bit differently. Maybe that means you just do a straight head-up challenge. Or maybe that means that you abandon that person altogether because the push into that person is now unsafe because they're prepared for you. But the step 2 is helicoptering. So using your class jump in order to do the same thing as a radar bait. So in a Warlock's position, it's floating above things, which a Titan can also do. But in the Hunter position, you get instantaneous elevation change, which means that you can bait someone sliding into you much easier than you would a Titan or a Warlock, due to the distance that you actually cover with your initial jump burst. So Hunter jump burst is really good because you can basically jump over people that are sliding at you, or jump over Juggernaut Titans. To counter Juggernaut Titans as a shotgunner yourself, you either move laterally, so you break their skate because it's hard to turn while you're sprinting, and you have to sprint to keep Jug Shield up, or you jump over them. Sometimes you slide underneath them, but most Juggernaut Titans pre-aim downward in a downward angle, so you don't normally want to try to slide underneath them because they're going to be prepared for you to do that. It's going to be easy to kill you. But if you jump over them as a hunter immediately, they have to hope that their sensitivity is, I think, 6 or higher before you can whip around and kill them. So again, recap the whole thing. Mix up your approaches and practice more advanced defensive shotgunning, or be very aware of when the situation calls for defensive shotgunning. So, like I said earlier, there's no real map today because it hasn't been done, but I do have the Bungie heat map. And this is just another bunch of data points. So the heat map works like this. The blue dots, I believe, are where Guardians end up going to, or around. And the red dots are where people either die or get kills. So let's copy this real quick and bring it into our whiteboard. so I can draw a little bit on it. Okay. So I'll draw some call-out areas, and then we can discuss them a little bit. So this here, area here is C. This is outside. This is where the big rock pillars are, and if you're outside when the skiff comes, you get blinded. This is A here, inside the cave. These are A tunnels. Let me draw. B is here, outside. And then this is C tunnels. And then we have outer tunnel and inner tunnel. This area here is skiff. It's the fallen skiff. And then I call this area here, use a different color. This area here, I call it mid. But some people, you know, you can call it B slope or lower skiff. This can be upper skiff, but I call it mid, so we're, for the sake of me explaining things, we're going to call it mid too. Try to make these black so I can actually draw with other colors. So you have A, C, B, mid, and then our lines, outer tunnel, inner tunnel, and skiff. Okay, so as you can see on the heat map, most of the kills go within tunnels, right? And this was a trials heat map. Obviously in Rumble and in other matches, you're going to see a lot more kills around the skiff area here, because that's just going to be a traffic lane as well. But in trials, because of where you spawn, and that's on C and A, the 50-50 is always going to be through the tunnels. So a lot of shotgun play, a lot of sniping play. You don't see very many people die here in the middle. And that's because people are sniping from either end, and they're using this as a way to move through. So you don't normally die there, you normally die before you get to that point. If you get to this point, it means you're, due to the way the tunnels work, you're most likely to close the gap. So this is the slide distance. This is slide distance. So anyone inside here, they're going to die here because this is slide distance for a shotgun. That's why this red is here and not out on B. So when you look at a heat map, these are some of the things that you can kind of glean from it, using it as data points. So knowing this, and knowing our 50-50s are straight down tunnels, basically skiff is always going to be a way to flank. And even though these are going to be close quarters with like really tight angles, any push to flank is going to be really effective. You just have to be careful if you're a sniper, because you got to basically stop at the door, because it's really easy to slide this distance to get within one hit range. Again, if you're on the other side and you're flanking C tunnels is really easy to flank as a sniper, because this corner here, there's a little pillar here before you actually go into C proper. You can see you have a sight line that goes all the way up here into the left side of the sniper of the special ammo here. So you can actually snipe safely from this distance and not be at risk of getting immediately shotgunned as a flanker. And they're going to know you're basically coming. You could, as a really good bait as a sniper, pushing this angle, you can actually push all the way up to appear on radar and then back up to the sniper lane that is safe. if you are going to try to push these tunnels, there are these areas here, these side tunnels, or these tunnels that move laterally, and that's your way to basically confuse your opponent. So let's just draw these here so we don't have to worry about them accidentally erasing them. I know it's hard to see, but I apologize. But we can use these tunnels here. Let's try using green here that move laterally to confuse our opponent. So rather than pushing head on around the corner here, we can move either side and pull them into us. Or just keep them still while our teammates push down B. And push them as a team. It's really easy to pinch people in the tunnels because you can approach from different angles or just confuse them on radar. You really have to rely on your eyes when you're playing Thieves Den, which I think is why a lot of people don't like it, because you can't properly read the radar very well. You have to really anticipate how your opponent is going to move around. So it makes it pretty difficult, but I really like Thieves Den because of that aspect, because it is difficult to properly predict how your opponents are going to move around. Well, that's pretty much all I had for you. Hopefully Anklet got plenty of good stuff to practice out of this. I really appreciate you guys watching. Again, if you want to send me replays, send them to keen@cruciblebootcamp.com. No 6s, only 3s. If you would like to support the show, I have a Patreon, patreon.com/cruciblebootcamp. I appreciate any and all donations, and you can also get signed up for tutoring there. I'm going to be starting my tutoring sessions next month for everyone that's signed up. So there's still a little bit of time before the month turns over to get signed up for tutoring for September. So if you want to do that, go check that out. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. I've been Keen Koala, your coach and teacher, and class is dismissed.